night, in its darkness, everything is devoid of color. With fading light, the contours gradually blur, deceiving the eye. Whatever is visible in the glare of the light becomes dim and gray, until it completely disappears in the tarry darkness. I stared at the curtained window. Rhythmic taps and vibrations under the floor set the hanging bulb of the lamp in motion. The swaying light of the circle could attract attention and hypnotize for a moment, since this lamp was the only object that was able to define, to some extent, the boundaries of furniture and walls in the room where it was located. It would seem that if it were to be extinguished, blackness and tar would suddenly pour over everything, creating a paralyzing abyss where nothing can move in the space anymore. In the ubiquitous shadow of the room, it was a preliminary object, and yet it could not completely illuminate it, just as it could not specify whether a wall is white, yellow, or beige. It is defined a wall as grayish, leaving proper interpretation to observers. The flickering light also captured the most invisible outline of a person over the table across from me, though it was too dim and too low to reach her face. I saw only a silhouette of her hair and shoulders, fading near the area of her chest, which was clad in a gray-brown dress, carefully ironed and evenly arranged, although the person herself was sitting rather unconcerned. Her right hand was outstretched on the counter near the light switch, while the left hand held a lit cigarette near her face. With her elbow resting on the armchair, we sat in silence, facing each other, but I felt that the silhouette was calmly but consistently watching me. Ribbons of smoke rose under the ceiling, getting lost in the pitch-black darkness. Minutes passed. The muffled tapping alone was soothing somehow, but the image of a dark room, only a bit larger than the average bedroom, was not. The black figure offered me an open pack of cigarettes. "No thanks," I replied. Perhaps I made a mistake, as the figure didn't answer. Instead, it probably stared right through me. I breathed a sigh of relief as she slowly moved the package to a darker spot on the tabletop. The silence that followed, punctuated by vibrations, became heavy and increasingly disturbing. At one point, the door to the right slid open, letting in the noise of a moving train, like water splashing from a burst pipe. The corridor was no less submerged in the same shadows as we were, but through the window on the other side, despite the darkness and absence of any lanterns, the outlines of the treetops could be seen moving. Movement. Movement is an additional factor that allows you to find yourself in the dark, to separate your own body from the lifeless environment. At night, when the object is lying still, its edges interpenetrate with the lines of the other objects, but after setting it in motion, its dimensions stabilize, and sometimes it is even possible to determine the position and distance of the moving object from the eye. The noise seemed to disturb the peace and harmony of the room, causing our lamp to flicker more distinctly. I rose slightly to reach the door and closed it. The noise died down, so I sat back in my chair. "How far are we?" I asked the figure next to me. She took a drag on her cigarette, letting out a puff of smoke, then sighed softly.
"You haven't visited this region for a long time, have you?"
She finally replied in a cold but calm and gentle voice.
"You know, Thor."
I admit, she drives me crazy sometimes, but I usually like her, though she's a hard type to talk to, even though I don't know her, nor have I ever seen her face. I don't even know where we're going. I sighed as well, though in my mind I agreed with her. I should have known all of this when I was still living normally, in a world where the sun sometimes shined after night. I hadn't seen it for so long that I'd forgotten how dazzling its glare was. The dark figure continued to stare at me.
"Yeah?
She asked slowly, keeping her tone stoic.
Maybe you don't know, but at least you understand. One of two evils. Better than the other way around. Then we had to turn back."
We could have turned back any time. The train probably only carried us. I don't even know if the driver was present in the cabin.
"Do you remember your wife?"
The figure asked again, this time carefully extinguishing the cigarette in the ashtray, the remnants of the embers slowly losing energy, turning into dead ashes. Like through a fog, I know she was with me before it all started. Before we were trapped in eternal wandering, before we had to carry flashlights everywhere, before we fought the shadow. That back then. Spilled for the first time on a grand scale. I hate this night. It has been going on for years, maybe decades, maybe centuries, but I still don't know if it will ever end. The accursed night age has been going for a very long time. I purposely covered the windows so I wouldn't have to look at the darkness for a while. There were fewer and fewer people. Maybe I don't remember from where and how long we're going, but I know that before the trip, I had the opportunity to see more than one person.
And you don't remember what kind of person she was? What she looked like?
The figure began taking another cigarette from the pack. She lit it with outstretched hands, away from her face. The dim light from her lighter picked out nothing specific in the darkness except her fingers.
It's still bad, but at least you understand that he's got her.
Until I find her, I will have no peace, I said. Perhaps she is long dead.